What's going on, y'all? Jupiter Bassin. So I'm going to do a little video today going over my 5 favorite spring lures. So these are going to be just hard baits. We're not going to go into soft plastics today. But for hard baits, first off, we're going to go with the crankbaits. So let me go ahead and show you my choices for crankbaits. So this is broken down into any category, but realistically you're going to be wanting to use a lipless or a square bill. You're not going to really use any deeper ones because in spring it's starting to warm up. Those fish are starting to push up into shallower water. So the first one I have here is going to be the Quake 70. It's by 6 cents, and I like to go with natural colors. I like to go with either a shad pattern or even using a bluegill pattern. You know, those bluegill are pushed up. They're the main forage as well as shad for bass. So, hey, match the hatch is the best way to go whenever you're fishing. Another two that I really like, and you really can't go wrong depending on the water, you can go ahead and use either a chrome or silver color or a gold. And gold just absolutely kills it for me. And I think that's because of wild shiners. They have a nice gold pattern on them. And I know those bigger bass feed on those big old shiners. So you can't go wrong with the bass candy and using a gold pattern. So with the lipless, this, like I said, I like to use a 6 cents Quake. It's a Quake 70. I also like to use the Red Eye Shad by Strike King. That one as well is a really great choice for a lipless. There's a few others, but I really like to stick to those two brands. They're some of my favorite. I've caught some absolute giants. Alright, getting into square bills. So I have another 6 cents bait here, and it is the Crush 50X. Now, I really enjoy the Crush. You know, you get into that kind of like 2 to 4, 3 to 5 depth range, which is really good whenever you're targeting those bass. And once again, I like to go with a more natural color. And when I use those square bills, I like to use them, you know, around cover. You know, if I see rock or if there's wood in the water, I like to throw those a lot more. So you have that bill, you know, hitting against them. You don't snag as much as you would with a lipless. Colors, I like to go about the same, but in this sense, I'm going to give you different ones a little bit. So once again, I like to go natural. I like to use either a bluegill pattern or a shad pattern. But I also like to use, I'll either go with a chartreuse or even a red, just to change it up if the water's a little bit more stained or dirty. They just seem to work for me. I know in Florida we don't really have you know, crawfish that are red or like that color or anything, but it just still works. So I'm not going to complain on why, but it just works for me. So I like using that. The next bait we're going to go ahead and get into is going to be one of my favorite all-time classic baits to use is going to be a spinner bait. I absolutely love spinner baits because here in Florida we got a lot of grass, lily pads, a lot of cattails, Kissimmee grass, stuff of that nature. I absolutely love throwing a spinnerbait through that. I'll put a trailer on it sometimes, but for the most part, I really like to use a trailer hook. I would highly recommend your hookup ratio with the spinnerbait will be tenfold if you use a trailer hook. You can get away with putting two, like a little grub or a small little swim bait on there. You'll still get the action. You can kind of work it and lay it over the top of the hook, and it works just fine. It actually, for the most part, sometimes actually helps me keep that trailer hook from kind of riding up or swinging around on the hook. I don't know why it does that, but it seems to keep the hook in the line a little bit more for me. Plus, you get that action from the trailer, and you know, you might entice the fish more. But like I said, I love throwing that along the side of grass lines, throwing it over hydrilla, using it and running it along the side of some of that Kissimmee grass or cattails. And then it's great when throwing it. Now, you can't use a trailer hook when you do this, but if you use it and you could roll in between docks, under docks, and then you can also throw it in between lily pads. Now, like I said, don't use a trailer hook for that. But My couple of my favorite actually for the spinner bait is I like using the Z-Man Sling Blade, and I also like the Sling Blade Z, I believe it is. And then I have a Dobbins. I'm not sure which one this is, but you guys could probably check it out. I'll leave the link in the description on Tackle Warehouse, but I really like this Dobbins one. It's pretty simple. It's got those 2 willow blades on it, and it works pretty good. So I'll leave some recommendations right up here on the spinner baits, since I really don't have some of the names for them, but spinner bait's another really good option for this time of year. Now, going into, and I've always liked using this bait, but now it has turned into absolutely one of my favorite baits to use year-round, and I'm falling in love with throwing this bait. And I think I caught on to it a little late, but I tried a lot of different things when I first started out with this bait, and I realized a lot of it has to do with the retrieve in the trailer. So I have just a Z-Man chatterbait. This is the Evo. It's actually brand new, as you can see the little red on the keeper, but I really like the Evo, and it's budget friendly compared to the Jackhammer. Now, I'm a Z-Man fanboy, I'll admit it, but you can go anywhere from just the $5 regular chatterbait up into the Jackhammer. And I would say the biggest thing, other than, I mean, there is some nice qualities of the way they tie them and stuff, and the paints, some of the colors, but the biggest thing is the amount of vibration you get off of these. I think the Jackhammer has obviously the most thud. The Evo is right behind it. I don't think the Evo's too much different. It's barely that much noticeable to me, enough for the price point. I really absolutely love the keeper on this. So you got that one wire on there, plus you got this little keeper right here, and I've noticed it's kept the bait on really well, especially if you're using I believe the what do they call them, the spike chatter spikes, the Z-Man ones. I really don't like, that's the one thing I don't like Z-Man soft plastics, just because if they touch my other soft plastics, it is a war. So I stick to Hog Farmer Spunk Shad for my trailer. Absolutely love it. In the 4.5, I believe, and then the 3.5. Just go with natural colors like a shad pattern, or I've been using natural gill a lot, and it's done really well for me. Other options for chatterbaits is you could also use the Berkeley Slobber Knocker. Has done a really good job for me. I've caught a lot of fish on it. I feel like the Slobber Knocker runs a lot more in a straight line. It doesn't hunt as much, and then the Strike King Thunder Cricket is really good as well. And I would say the Strike King Thunder Cricket is the closest to more of your like Z-Man chatterbait, and it hunts around a lot more. Gives off a really good loud sound on it too, so I like that. So let's move on to the next bait. Alright, so topwater is killer in the spring, and my favorite bait to use here in Florida is going to be hollow body frog. Now, I have the Scum Frog. I think this is called leopard color, I believe, but this Scum Frog, I believe this is the trophy series of the Scum Frog, and these things are absolutely killer. I love Scum Frogs. Recently, probably within the last like 4 or 5 years, got introduced into Scum Frogs, and I probably won't fish any other when it comes to just a regular hollow body frog. I just absolutely love them. My favorite color is a sloppy toad. That thing just crushes it for me. Alright, and then I like to use a popping frog as well. The one I'm going to show you guys, which there's a bunch of other ones I like to use. I like to throw the Spro popping frog. I like to throw the Booyah Pad Crasher popping frog. And I also really like throwing this one. And this is going to be the 6 Sense Vega. And honestly, I will say this one is the closest you can get, in my opinion, between a regular frog and a popping frog. Because this baby, it walks really good. You can get some good action on it. But the slender body and the profile of this somehow goes through cover a lot better for me. And even the cup on the front of this is just so thin that a lot of times it'll work its way through. With other popping frogs, they have like a wider mouth, and whenever you hit that cover, they kind of want to stick more. So you can kind of use it, be more versatile, and use this one, you know, when you're in heavy cover as well as throwing it in open water. So I really like the Vega Frog. Shout out to 6 cents on that. I'll go ahead and leave my favorite frogs as well up here, because there's a lot of them. And then the last thing is, I really like to throw glide bait. Glide bait is one of my favorite things to throw in the spring. You can get in that shallow water. And this is the S-Waver, the 168. And I believe it's in that trout color. But the S-Waver is just a reliable, just classic glide bait, affordable one to use by River Seas. And that's how I really got started in throwing glide baits. The next one I would recommend that I really like to use is using the Bait Sanity Antidote. And I also have the Explorer Gill, which is really good. And then I've actually recently started using this as the Nessie. Now I know this is a softer, but it's still, I still consider it like a soft, hard plastic, you know, swim bait or glide bait. But I'm really liking the Nessie because you could skip that thing really well, and I like how the hook will swing out a bit. So that's going to be it. I'll leave, like I said, I'll leave some of my favorite glide baits up here too as well, so that way you guys can see just a list of them. You can go ahead and do some research yourself, maybe look up on Tackle Warehouse. But that's going to be it. I believe I went over my 5. And this is just my personal preference, but I really love these baits. And I hope this helps you guys out. If you guys would like me to do an in-depth on one of these baits a little bit more, speaking about like the technique, how I throw it, what I like to use for rod or my reel options, where to throw it, you know, just different scenarios, just basically go over in depth on that bait. Leave it in the comments and I'll go over that bait for you guys, hopefully make a video. But until next time, y'all, peace.